I'm joined by Dylan DeThomas. Dylan is the Vice President of Industry Collaboration for the Recycling Partnership. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Rachelle.
So as we know, it's been 6 months since the ban. How effective has it been so far?
Well, I suppose you'd have to ask someone in China how effective it's been in terms of materials flowing into it. But what we can say is that materials have either stayed here in the U.S. or have gone to other Southeast Asian countries.
So let's expand on that. Where are the ripple effects of the ban being felt the most outside of China?
I would say likely in the U.S. and in Europe, where you have seen some stockpiling of materials, but you've also seen an increase in investment in U.S. domestic processing capacity to be able to process the materials here instead of shipping them where they used to go over in China.
So what sort of solutions are some of these waste exporting countries and companies coming up with to really tackle the fallout?
Well, they're expanding existing recycling capacity. So you're seeing here in the U.S., you're seeing millions of pounds of recycling capacity for, say, PET bottles, like your soda bottles and water bottles, being built in Texas and California and in Pennsylvania.
And so do you think it was just a matter of time, given the amount of waste and given the small percentage of this waste that's being recycled, was it just a matter of time before China pulled back on accepting the world's waste?
The way we view it is that it's scrap material, and it was a matter of time before other places wanted to be able to consume that material. And the key is no matter who is consuming the material, who is recycling the material, it has to be cleaner, and that's what my organization, the Recycling Partnership, does. And
what do you think are some of the challenges that come with this transition?
Well, the challenges are, generally speaking, market-based. A lot of the materials, because they weren't flowing as easily as they were, meant there was at least a temporary dip in the prices that they were able to garner for those materials after they were sorted out from being collected at the curb.
Now, you have some countries scratching their heads trying to figure out what to do with their plastic waste and this other sort of waste. But then you also have people seeing this as an opportunity. So what would you say are the main pros and cons of China initiating this ban?
Well, I think the cons initially were companies didn't know where the markets were going to develop. And so the materials kind of moved slowly. Bales of plastic and bales of paper kind of stacked up for a while. But then they started slowly finding other markets. And then happily, the silver lining of this whole issue is that you're seeing greater expansion of domestic markets for these materials so they can get recycled and support jobs here in the U.S.
And in terms of changing the mindset, how much of a wake-up call do you think this will be to the whole supply chain, from manufacturers to consumers to recycling companies and also these waste exporting businesses?
I think it's a real wake-up call. I think that but it's also a real opportunity to be able to communicate to residents that they need to recycle. They have to recycle often, but they have to recycle correctly, meaning that they're putting the accepted materials that should belong in the recycling cart in the cart and put the trash in the trash can where it belongs.
Now, the standards for how people dispose of their waste, they vary very, very widely across the globe. There are some areas in England where you have to recycle your food waste. There's a separate bin for all of that. And some places you'll have recycling bins, but perhaps they actually don't make it to the recycling plants. So what can be done to make sure that there's proper oversight in terms of how these materials are recycled or disposed of?
Well, I mean, solid waste management is a very local business, so depending, or local concern, so depending on where you are, the rules are going to be different. You could pass national legislation, though that's very unlikely. So I think what you see is that, local governments who really want to do the right thing can reach out to organizations like ours, the Recycling Partnership, to be able to get technical assistance to optimize the recycling system and the recycling programs there on the ground.
And as we see, there are some customs unions that are really having to siphon out all this illegal trash that's coming into the country. So what are the economic and environmental consequences if countries just don't adequately address their waste problems?
Well, I think that environmentally, you see the materials piling up. But economically, I think that there is an opportunity. Again, here domestically, but also in Europe, you're seeing companies really step up to the plate and start building capacity to be able to recycle things like like those soda bottles and water bottles, but also like your yogurt cups and margarine tubs, and steel cans and cardboard boxes.
All right, thank you so much. Dylan de Thomas there of the Recycling Partnership.